Hi, guys. Welcome back to Cerebral Selects. My name is Micah Archibald. I'm here with our host, Joey Krafchick, also known as Sir Rebral, to talk a little bit about the Cerebral 7 and what Joey got right and what Joey got wrong here in week 2. Joey, this week, not as good as our week 1, but still strong. Let's break down these games and go through these one by one, talking a little bit about the detail and what went right and what went wrong. We're going to start out the Green Bay Atlanta game. Obviously, Atlanta pulling this one out. You had Green Bay. Tell me a little bit about this game.
I gave the Packers too much credit for their defense as the Falcons just ran it right down their throat. 41 carries for 210 yards. It was a clinic. So they really wore them down the second half, and by the end of the game, the Falcons actually outgained them by over 150 yards. So there was two things I kind of got wrong about that, even though the result worked out.
Yeah.
I overrated the Packers defense, and I underrated the Falcons' ability to bounce back from week 1 to week 2 and really step it up. Because week 1, they didn't look like a team that was anywhere close to being a good offense, but they proved me wrong.
You had Baltimore +3 versus Cincinnati. Baltimore winning that game. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Ravens took care of business. They actually only gave up 17 points to the Bengals. One of the touchdowns was a punt return touchdown, so the Bengals scored 17 on offense, 7 on special teams, so it was a really good showing by the Ravens offense and defense, and they were just clearly the better team going into the week. It just had to be that way, and it would have taken a lot of luck for the Bengals to end up winning that one, so I'm glad the Ravens pulled it out.
And our third game that we're going to talk about today is the Miami-New England game. What went right there?
Yeah, that one was actually ended up being a sweat. There was a 21-point fourth quarter, and there was a chance the Patriots could have scored again at the end to make it 24-24 and go to overtime, but thankfully they got stopped. But yeah, that bet was ahead the whole game. It was just inevitable that the Patriots would find a way to slow down that offense. They didn't give Tyreek Hill anything. He only had a few catches. But luckily for the Dolphins, they have good running backs and a good run scheme, so they were able to just run the ball all over them, and they were just gobbling up huge amounts of clock the entire game. And that was almost a perfect score. I had 23-16 as my projection, but it ended up being 24-17, so I was really close to getting another one in week 2.
All right, Joey, let's talk big picture. Let's talk global. This week, obviously, we landed with our Cerebral 7 at 3-4. Let's go a little bit into that and talk big picture.
This week in the league was historic. Of the 16 over-unders on the board this week, 13 went over. And the average distribution of over-unders on an NFL week is 9 unders and 7 overs. So unders are definitely leaning, and it's definitely leaning unders in general. So for 13 overs to hit when the middle of the distribution is 7, it's like less than 1%.
All right. We're talking Chicago at Tampa Bay. We had the under at 41, 27-17. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I felt like I was in control that whole game. The Bucks I had winning 20-13. I gave the Bucks defense a little bit more credit than they maybe deserved. The Bears had 17 at the end, and they were trying to drive from their own 1-yard line with not much time, so it was seemingly pretty much over. I was going to win the 20-17 final score, hit the under, but unfortunately there was a pick 6 right there at the end, so that ended up busting that bet, but I think it was a fine bet. Tampa Bay's offense is actually a lot better than I thought it was. They gained over 400 yards in this game, which doesn't exactly correlate to their 20 points. So maybe I deserved for the over to hit either way, but nonetheless, it should have won, barring that pick 6.
Number 5, let's talk Jets at Dallas, under 38.5. Final score, 30-10.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I knew the Jets would struggle against that defense, and there would be some turnovers generated, but 4 turnovers by the Jets set up the Cowboys in good position, gave them extra possessions, and they ended up scoring 6 times, 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, 30 points. So the excessive turnovers, based on where they were, where they happened, it fed into the over. And I had the Jets losing 21-10, and they did actually end up scoring 10 points, but a little bit of variance, and that one barely busted on the over.
All right, moving into our pick 6 of the week. Detroit getting 4.5 versus Seattle at Seattle. That was a heartbreaker. Let's hear about this one and why Joey got this wrong.
It had actually a lot more to do with the Chiefs kind of starting slow, and that materialized this week as the Chiefs only scored 17 points in a win. But nonetheless, Lions weren't as good as I thought. Dan Campbell got severely outcoached in this game, and I should have used history to realize, the Seahawks, they're resilient. They'll find a way to bounce back, and 4.5 was just too many points.
Number 7 of the week of our Cerebral 7, we had Chargers giving to Tennessee. Tennessee pulled it out. Hate to see it. Joey, why did we get this one wrong?
My handicap of this game was actually okay. The 3 touchdown drives the Titans got, one was a 70-yard pass, one was a 60-yard pass, and then the other drive, there was 2 third-and-longs where there was a stupid personal foul penalty that kept the drive going. So the Titans had no offense to be had. The Chargers just shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over. And unfortunately for me and anyone else who bet on them, you can't factor in that teams are going to commit stupid penalties. You actually maybe can a little bit, but you can't do it to the degree that they did. So the Titans were able to sneak out the win there, and things did go as I thought. I mean, the Chargers were picking them apart through the air. They didn't punt that many times, and the Chargers got a lot of sacks on them. So they were definitely the better team, but they just shot themselves in the foot.
All right, Joey, let's talk about the Cerebral Stay Away. Even though people aren't betting this bet, I'm sure a lot of people this week are glad they didn't. We are talking about Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Yeah, that game was a perfect example of a stay away. Despite the fact that the Browns turned it over 4 times, they still had a chance to drive down and win at the end. They failed to do so, clearly, but this game was all sorts of wacky. The Steelers gave up over 400 yards to the Browns. The Browns out-yarded them severely, but all of these random things happening flip the outcome and have not a lot to do with the skill of the team.
All right, so Joey, what did it feel like, man, when everything this week just started to unravel and started to go wrong? What does that feel like for you? You've got a lot of people watching, a lot of people riding on or betting on your picks.
Yeah, Sunday was definitely not a great day. Didn't feel great, but I slept it off and re-energized now, and I've realized, it's part of the process. When things go wrong, that gives you information that you can use to recalibrate everything and figure out how to proceed. And weeks 1 and 2 and week 3 even, things are getting cleared up. We're learning who these teams are, because a lot of what we see in the first 2 weeks, you have to figure out, is it their opponent or is it them? And as the weeks progress, things become a lot clearer. So obviously I would have liked to have the win this week, but I have a lot more information to use to win in future weeks now, so it's water under the bridge.
All right, so talk a little bit about specifics here. Like, what specific learnings kind of came out of this week?
One thing that became pretty solidified was that Tampa Bay, with their new offensive coordinator, they have reinvented their offense. Their offensive line was one of the worst in the league last year, and now they're blocking really well. Their offense is working with Baker Mayfield, so it's been a pretty amazing development. We learned that the Rams, they're for real. Week 1 wasn't a fluke. They held their own against San Francisco. That was a really competitive game. And the Bears, they were the worst team in the league last year, so their expectations weren't extremely high, but they've actually gotten worse.
Well, thanks for that insight, Joey. We really appreciate it. I'm Micah Archibald. Thank you to our host, Joey Krafchek. Guys, we will see you next time, week 3, coming up.
Thanks for coming on this week, and I'm looking forward to having a much better week 3.